Hey guys, what's up? Today we're going to be covering visualization. Last slide we went over going further into the triad, but this is going to be a brand new concept. So make sure that you pay attention, make sure that you listen up. Um, this will be really important because it's something more drill oriented and less concept oriented. And so you will get to practice this a lot on your own, and you will practice this a lot on your own, and you'll find it very, very helpful. This slide is very basic. We're going to go over visualization, and then we're going to go over enacting that concept into game. So how do we transform our practice into play, and how do we make sure that our practice gives us the best possible play? So let's go over what visualization actually is. So if we take the definition that Bassem uses, he states that mental imagery, also called mental visualization and mental rehearsal, is defined as experience that resembles perceptual experience, but which occurs in the absence of the appropriate stimuli for the relevant perception. So that's really, really complicated. If we can break that down more simply, visualization helps you to improve your subconscious execution, right? So remember that in that diagram, that big diagram that links the conscious, the subconscious, the self-image, and the performance together, your conscious draws an arrow towards your subconscious. So your conscious is responsible for training your subconscious, right? You tell yourself to study. So if we can consciously think of each action when we're trying to execute something subconsciously, we can train that process. So we can train ourselves to do things naturally, but to do it in the manner that we want to do it. And that's a really, really important thing to recognize. So that's what we're going to be going over. How you can train your conscious, or how you can train your subconscious with your conscious. And I believe my video will cut over this wording, but the self-image cannot tell the difference between what actually happens and what is vividly imagined. So it can't tell the difference. So what you practice is going to be what you play, right? What you try to emulate is what's going to happen when you're in the round, right? And we want to train that to be as good as possible. So let's go over why we visualize. That's a really, really important concept to understand. So visualization leads to positive reinforcement. So if you keep on emulating the perfect scenario, you will do that perfect technique in competition, right? You want to practice like you play, and you want to play like you practice, right? That's something I'm going to emphasize over and over again. So the way that you practice, you want to simulate the real round, and when you're in the real round, you just want to simulate like you practice, right? And if we can do both of those consistently, we will consistently get good performance. It's important to realize that all the best players use visualization, right? Olympians constantly do it. PGA Tour golfers constantly do it. It allows you to practice anywhere at any time, and it limits the physical mental toll, and it makes motions more natural. Let me go over that a bit more slowly. So let's go over the first point, right? All the best players do it. PGA Tour golfers do it. Most Olympians, I'm sure that I'll send you guys a video of luge players or of luge competitors using visualization to their advantage. A lot of people, or a lot of top competitors do it because it's important to envision yourself having the perfect execution, right? And allows you to practice anywhere, anytime. You don't need your computer to practice buzz visualization, right? You could just simply go over the motions of buzzing, or the motions of understanding how to get the right question, the step-by-step process, right? For most competitors that need equipment physically, they don't need to have that specific equipment there. All they need is their mind. So if I'm sitting waiting for the bus, then I can practice visualization. If I'm sitting, or if I'm about to go to sleep, I can practice visualization. Limits your physical mental toll. It's a lot more relaxing than actually practicing, whether that's mentally. It's more important for if you're doing physically. If you're an Olympian and you have to compete at a high level, and that could be very, very exhausting. And so you can practice mentally without having to exert your body, but you're still training your brain to do the right actions, to tell your body to do the right actions. and it makes your motions more natural. You won't hesitate. You won't overthink when you compete because you trust, your subconscious trusts that this is the right process, right? And if you can train that in the correct manner, then you're going to do absolutely fine. So let's walk over, we're about to start buzz visualization right now. Let's walk over the process, okay? So remember, to make the simulation accurate, you must be the one who gets the question, okay? So in this situation, I'm going to read you a question. The question might not be on your subject, but even if it's not, in this scenario, tell yourself that you're going to be the one that gets the question, and in my scenario, wins the game, right? So tell yourself that you're the one that gets the question, not your teammates, nobody else, right? You're completely dependent on it, right? Trust yourself that you can do that. And right now, if you don't have one, pause the video and grab a clicky pen or a ballpoint pen and use that as the buzzer. It's a really good habit I want you guys to get into, even if you're playing something like Protoball. Actually, Protoball, your spacebar is a good button, but if you're ever practicing just reading toss-ups to yourself, or somebody's reading toss-ups to you and you don't have a buzzer set, use a ballpoint pen. It's a really good practice. And if you're ready to begin, then we're going to start. So make sure that you follow the instructions, and I will read these very slowly, but make sure that you follow what is being told to you. If it's too fast, then just pause the video, right? If you hit the spacebar on your computer, it'll pause the video, and you don't even have to open your eyes to hit the spacebar, right? So close your eyes, begin, and don't open them until I tell you to or instruct you to, because then you'll ruin what I'm doing and the whole concept of buzz visualization, right? There's a very specific technique to it, and we want to make sure that that's consistent as possible. If you're ready, let's begin the visualization. Close your eyes. You're no longer here, but you're at MSMCT in the final round of the final toss-up. Imagine the scene. The huge crowd of people, the seemingly endless room, the overwhelming buzz of voices, the faces of your teammates, the moderator's face, and the clock. As your coach steps away, imagine your preparation before the next question, whether that's a deep breath, a reminder to yourself, or a simple action. Understand the thoughts in your head. Toss-up 24. This leader's visit to plague-stricken troops at Jaffa was depicted by the painter Antoine Zongro. Mamluk forces lost this man at the Battle of the Pyramids. After returning to Europe in 1799, he took power in the coup of 18 Brumaire. For 10 points, named its first French emperor. As the question begins, imagine yourself as you listen to the question. What posture is your body in? Where is your hand relative to the buzzer? How does your body feel? Which muscles are engaged? As the question continues, now imagine the few thoughts that race through your head. What are you thinking? How do you feel? Are you confused, frustrated, or confident? Now get to the point where you recognize the answer to the question, right before you buzz. Open your eyes shortly. Look at the question. How many words does it take from when you recognize the answer to the instant before hitting the buzzer? How long does it take? Count the seconds or a fraction of a second in your head. Now close your eyes again. Now imagine the way you hit the buzzer. How your hand slides across it or on top of it. Imagine the pressure you insert from pushing it down, the audible click it makes, and the pressure it sends back as you release it. Imagine composing yourself for an answer. Imagine the subconscious checking your confident self-image, then registering the conscious thought that is your answer. The moderator says in a clear voice, "Player 1. Imagine now, as if you're a spectator from the distance, the way that you say your answer, in a soothing, yet confident. The moderator acknowledges your answer is correct. Now imagine the feeling you have. Imagine how your teammates react." Now open your eyes. All right, so that is buzz visualization. Now that we've gone over it, it's really basic. You basically just listen to a toss-up, and then you want to go over each thought or each process of it that should go on in your head, right? If we can go back to it, like some few things, like how long does it take you to count your answer, right? Or how long does it take you to get from the point where your subconscious realizes it to actually hitting the buzzer, right? And remember that there should be like a natural amount of time in between those two actions, right? You're not gonna buzz right away. If it's a stock clue, maybe you do, right? But maybe if it's a thought, then you need to register that thought. Perhaps it takes a second or two to register, and then you hit that buzzer. Perhaps it takes probably around a second or a bit less than a second, right? We want to promote fast reaction times, but you want to make it as realistic as possible, right? So maybe you don't even have to set an amount of time, right? Simply let your body, just imagine your body reacting, coming to the thought that, oh, okay, this is like let's say you know it on the clue for Battle of the Pyramids, right? So just imagine your head going, okay, this is the answer for the Battle of the Pyramids. I hit buzz. And that's not going to be after he finishes saying pyramids. But just imagine yourself going through that thought and then hitting that buzzer, okay? Again, let's quickly go over realism versus surrealism, okay? What you dream or what you tell yourself to think and what actually happens, we can correlate those, okay? So what we envision will be what we happen if we tell our brain that what we envision is what happens, okay? Imagining your reactions and your thoughts during that are really important, right? So making sure that you feel confident when you buzz, making sure that you know how to set yourself properly before, whether that's taking a deep breath, whether that's doing a fake yawn, whether that's making a simple action or telling yourself something, right? Make sure that you do that. Make sure that your processes while answering the question are healthy, your reactions while answering the question are healthy. And lastly, don't feel bad if you have problems imagining certain things. When I do archery and I tell myself to imagine, or when I first started imagining how I should shoot, I would walk up to the line. I would pull my bow back, and then as I released, my bow would snap in half, and my arrow would go flying somewhere. And that, if you can think about it, right, is just due to a very low self-image, right? I didn't think that I was that good, and so my thoughts were, okay, I'm not that good. Like my shot will never be good. And slowly, I started to build my self-image where it got to where my bow would stay intact, and then it went to where my arrow would hit the target, and then my arrow got closer to the target, and then I hit gold, right? And then I hit the middle, I hit right next to the bullseye, and then I hit the bullseye, right? I would have trouble imagining hitting the bullseye. Now I can do it very consistently. If I close my eye, that arrow goes right in the bullseye, right? After I finish my shot. My release, I used to imagine my hand going like this, even though my hand didn't go like that. Now I imagine the clean release backwards, right? So all those things are really, really important. I'll demonstrate it at practice one day, but make sure that you can imagine all of that, right? Make sure that you can do all of that. And if there are problems, if you think that you neg on that question, or if you find yourself like envisioning yourself negging, or you find yourself envisioning that you take way too long on something, right? Just keep doing it with more questions. Let it come naturally, right? Don't fret and don't worry on it, right? But putting yourself in that high pressure scenario, simulating it, will help you prepare yourself for when it actually happens, right? It's perfectly normal if a bunch of things go wrong the first time you do visualization. For a lot of people, it doesn't work out the first time. But that's also very, very good, because that means that you're honest with yourself, right? You found a mistake with your self-image and you learn to fix it, right? That applies to anybody, right? This is ineffective if you aren't honest with yourself and if you aren't diligent. You need to be honest to make sure that you're judging each action, right? That when you envision it, you put yourself as realistically as possible into the scenario, and then you need to be diligent with yourself, because you need to do every single little process, right? Because here we want to be diligent. When you're answering the question, things go by in a blur, but we have time here because we're sitting in our room and we're practicing it, right? So we have time to nitpick at all the little errors, right? We have time to look at this and then see what needs to be done right or wrong, right? We have time to judge each individual step, right? We want to make our play as consistent as possible, and this will help us do that. Okay, and then lastly, we're going to talk about translating performance into play, which is a very simple concept. Remember, we want to play like we practice, and we want to practice like we play, right? So when you're practicing, you want to treat yourself like you're in the actual high pressure round, and when you play, you want to treat yourself like you're at practice to make yourself more calm and natural, right? And to play the easiest, or play the best that you can. Remember, playing the best usually comes from being fully subconscious, and you're fully subconscious when you're natural. So when you're in practice, right? So don't try to perform better when you're at a tournament. Just tell yourself it's like practice. Tell yourself it's natural, that it'll come easily, and then it will. So the 3 steps of a task are the anticipation, the action, the reinforcement, right? Anticipation before the toss-up's read, action when the toss-up is being read, right? And then reinforcement is after the toss-up ends, right? After a moderator acknowledges the answer. And your game plan is to make that as consistent as possible. Do the same thing constantly, right? There will be a few scenarios, especially after the end of action, whether you get it right, whether you get it wrong, whether you're winning in the round, whether you're losing in the round. Simulate all of this. Go through every scenario, right? I'm not going to personally make 10 slides and have you tell you to go through every single scenario, but go through every scenario, right? Say like I'm 40 points down in the game, and there's 1 toss-up left. Or say 400 points down and it's toss-up number 12, right? So simulate yourself in every round. Simulate how you'll feel. Simulate like the frustration or the anxiety, right? And then just tell yourself to practice it, right? Or maybe you're 100 points up with 1 toss-up left, right? Simulate not being overconfident, right? You have to occupy your conscious mind, right? You're training your conscious. You're telling your conscious to train your subconscious, right? You're transferring. So your conscious mind is active and it's occupied. It's transferring all its power to the subconscious, and the subconscious can do the action. And make sure that your process is duplicable. You can do it all the time, and it's the same thing all the time. It's consistent all the time. That's what we want, right? We want things to be as consistent as possible. Lastly, there's a section in the book that goes over like the direction phase and all that in this chapter at the end. Don't go over that. That mainly applies to shooters and athletes. That does not apply to you guys. In terms of your steps subconsciously, I've taught you that. That's the 2-brain system, and then that's that's basically the 2-brain system, right? That is your subconscious action. Right now we're working on what you think before and after, right? But in terms of what you need to do subconsciously, I've trained you from day one on that. So make sure that you can do that on day one.